Hey guys, welcome back to Impact. Today we have Jean-Pierre Fuchs. And if you don't know who he is, all you have to do is go to Google, go to images, and I assure you, you will not miss him. And you will know who he is. He is one of the mass monsters from some years ago. Guy had an incredible physique and got a great story too. So we have him on today. We're really excited about this. And Jean-Pierre, thank you for coming into Impact, man. On this show, we are looking for guys who have impacted their world. And certainly you have, you've made an impact in the world of bodybuilding. I think not just with your physique, but with your story as well on things that have happened to you. So man, welcome in. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for having me. I love to do stuff like this, because we are forgotten, people start to forget, and I think history is important because I was always big into bodybuilding history, and I know the kids are not anymore, but so we got to keep getting out there and giving advice. So
yeah,
thank you.
No, that's exactly right. Hey, Jean-Pierre, now it's okay to call you JP, correct?
Sure.
Okay. Hey, JP, tell us, who's that on the wall behind you?
That would be me. Well, there's the one cover I liked so much. I only put two covers up there. One I share with Milos, as you may see, but the rest is me. Yes.
Yeah. And tell us where are you from? Tell us how tall you are, how you came to the States, all of that stuff, and just give us kind of a rundown. Because I agree with you. I think the kids nowadays, with the attention span and the way social media is, that we've lost that ability to know who the guys were that came before us. And I agree with you, man. I think that's so important, but it's a lost story. It's a lost art now. So give us some background on you.
You got to know your history to know where you're going. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I grew up in southern Switzerland at the Italian border, very small town, Nauters, 7,000-8,000 people. The interesting part about Nauters is Nauters Brik. Brik is on the other side of the river. We had in the late 80s, 1 year, pretty much every class winner of the Swiss championships.
Really?
It was a fascinating little town where just some kind of bodybuilding buck went in. There's a guy who started the gym and all his friends followed him. And it became somewhat of a little bodybuilding kind of mecca in Switzerland for a short time, till the city took over again. So I grew up into that. And when I went to the gym, it was never, hey, let me go become fit or let me improve my soccer thing. The skies were so huge. I wanted to go in and be world champion on the first workout, So that's where I grew up. And I stayed there for about 4 or 5 years. And I don't know what the rule here was, but when you started training, of course, I was interested into steroids and all the stuff like any kid. Yeah. And first of all, there was nothing really available. We had twice a year, we had usually a bodybuilder from Czechoslovakia showing up with a suitcase, selling some stuff. But all the bodybuilders made sure that you didn't have access to that when you were a younger bodybuilder. So I felt like, well, I got to find out. I'm going to have to go to the city. So during trade school, I skipped every other week of school. I mean, we had only 1 day, 1 to 1.5 days a week at school. Every other week I skipped. I went to Bern to see the Swiss champion, senior world champion, Harry Derglin. Okay. He's a little 70 kilo, like lightweight guy, incredible body, absolutely incredible. He placed top 3 at the Mr. Universe several times. And it's back at the time where there is 80 people at the lightweight category. Right. So you really had to be good to kind of be in the top 3 there. And I remember when, he showed me some exercises and I'm 17 and I'm like, hey, Harry, our little town, they don't know much about steroids, He's like, what? Well, they don't know really much. I said, I watched you. You're eating crap. You're fat like a pig. You don't know how to work out. And you're asking me about steroids? Get the fuck out of here. I don't want to see your face anymore. So yeah, that was my first approach. And later on, I started to figure out why, and I went back to him later, and he's like, look, if you perfection everything for 5 years, you know how to work out, you have the talent, to win local shows, you know how to train, then you can consider it. But a first cycle back then, I was advised, it was about 19, take one shot of Deca a week,
Oh,
and
wow.
do that for, I take one shot of Deca, a half a shot of testosterone, like 125 milligram of testosterone, do that for 5-6 weeks. If you really improve enough, that means you're made for it. We can start talking. If you don't improve tremendously during this phase, forget it. It will never happen for you. And he used to say to me, he says, look, I'm going to tell you, he said to me, you can take more and it will work better. Absolutely. I get that. But you get into some kind of devil's circle and the body is going to need more all the time. And you have to look at this as a 10-year project. It's going to take you 7, 8, 9, 10 years to compete at the Mr. Olympia if you have the talent for it. So you have to find a way to improve for that amount of time and not run out of steam in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And it always was in my head, and we had the rumors. I remember I heard, well, the Dutch, they're taking 7-8 grams a week, So the Dutch bodybuilder was Barry Dumay.
Oh, yeah.
So I heard him competing, guest posing in Geneva, 3-hour car ride. So I went down there with a body, and as we did in every show, we sneaked somehow backstage. It was we had this figured out to an art wherever we went, how to sneak in backstage. And I saw him pumping up. I was maybe 20 at that time, and I was already bigger than him. So
you were bigger than Dumay at that time?
Oh yeah, I mean he was very defined, and the beautiful presentation, and it looked great on stage. But he wasn't that big, at least not in my eyes.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that's in any way true. Anyway, what they're saying, but I knew that if that guy takes the 7 grams, I don't need that at all because I'm already bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
So we took a car. My friend took a car, and we went up to the Netherlands. And stayed over the summer. The Netherlands was an amazing country when it came to bodybuilding. 1 year they beat Germany in the World Championship. There was a team posing every year, which usually the Germans or the Americans won. And 1 year the Dutch beat them. So we were like, oh my God, the Netherlands is a very, very small country. So let's go check it out. And that was quite a trip, I first time seen real freaking hardcore gyms and people training like crazy. And so that's how you learn step by step. But, it's also possible if that first encounter with 17, I would have gotten to the wrong guy who's like, hey, yeah, man, train, go for it, I would never have turned into a good bodybuilder. My life would have gone totally different. So I do feel for the youngs, for the younger people sometimes, with all this bad advice out there.
Right. One of the things that that hit me, I had a guy, his name was Steve Kavanaugh, who did the same thing for me, and
that's quite a name. Supreme Court. Huh?
Yeah. He lost to Jeff King in the Mr. America.
Yeah.
But he helped me when I was real young, and I was sneaking into a gym. And it was an apartment complex with a little gym in it. And I was sneaking into there. Sometimes I'd get caught and get thrown out, and I'd just come back the next day. And he came in there and started showing me, and I was young. I was like 12, 13. And he came in there, was showing me how to do, work out a little bit. And of course, that just fueled everything. By the time I was 13, I had already gotten Dianabol. So, but it was the same way. The bodybuilders weren't telling us as kids how to take it. They, it was, matter of fact, they wouldn't even, none of them would even talk to you about getting it for you, and back then it was legal. And so, but we couldn't come up with it. I actually got the Dianabol from a friend of mine whose brother was a power lifter, and snaked it off of him. But it's just the way it was. But now these kids, man, I was talking to Dave Palumbo not too long ago, and he was talking about his 5-year-old orders stuff. He can't even read, but he's ordering stuff off Amazon, from his dad's phone, and he's like, kids are so resilient, they'll find a way to get it. The problem is we got kids that are 12, 13 years old who are finding a way to get trend, and they're blasting trend like nobody's business. And I talked to a number of kids in a gym one day, and I'm in the process of making a video on it. Once I finally get all of their parents to say it, sign a release form. But I was amazed at how young these kids were and how they were already exposed to steroids and how many were actually already experimenting with them.
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm like, well, where are you guys getting this information? And they're like, YouTube, forums, social media, they're finding out. And it's not like when we were young or, now how old are you?
55.
Okay. So I'm 57. So we're same era. And so I was, it's not like when we were younger, when, things were a lot different. Now, man, these kids just get it. And there's no fear. We were talking recently to Amin Ali, and, I was telling him, I was like, once you put that needle in, you've kind of crossed the Rubicon, because now there's really nowhere else to go. Yeah. And now you lose that fear of it's nothing to swallow a pill. Once you hit that needle, there's nowhere else to go. You're not scared to put something in your body at that point.
Things changed dramatically for me once I moved to Zurich.
Yeah.
After 20, I moved to Zurich, and I remember, I went to the first gym. It was outside Zurich in Regensdorf. Regensdorf is pretty famous in Switzerland for having the most hardcore prison. So when you the sand, when you drive down to Regensburg, it's this huge kind of like almost like a castle in the middle. It's scary as hell. So if that doesn't scare you as a kid, they never go to prison, so you just know this is bad. Yeah. So I went to the gym, and right away the guy, hey, come on to the back, and the suitcase, open it up. The owner of the gym, every steroid I think on the planet was in that suitcase.
Wow.
So, but then I did have the voice of Harry Derglin in my mind, be careful. But I'm not, when I did my amateur cycles preparing for the first World Championships, although I went to World Championship after 4 or 5 years, but that's a different story. I ended up by accident at my first World Championship. But then the first time I really went there be competitive in 93, I did decent cycles, with 500 milligram of testosterone, because I was told, and I think it was good advice. Mm-hmm. If you have to take more than 500 milligram testosterone a week to become pro, you're not it, because you need to be able to make another big jump once you turn pro. Mm-hmm. And so if you can't do it, you don't do it without growth hormones, and do it without more than 500 milligram of testosterone. But I did decent cycles with 500 milligram of testosterone. I switched then kind of from Deca to Primo, 300-400 milligram of Primo a week, and then 25 milligram of D-bol in the week 1 to 4. Then I switched to Tren. The Tren was absolutely incredible back then. They had those little 78.5 milligram vials from France. You needed like three a week, and you just like. And then I switched to Masteron. So it's not
it was different back then. It's not like that junk we have today, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. So it's not that I didn't feel like I'm doing a lot. I did. Yeah. My feeling was, oh my God, I hope this is going to be okay. But then also at some point, you get a little brainwashed in a sense. If anybody around me, or if anybody died or anything like that, you brushed it off with, they overdid it, or they didn't have the nature to do it. It's not that. You have to be careful. But then once I turned pro, I doubled the testosterone to 1,000. So it's not that I was like, an angel here. So I did do 1,000 testosterone and 400 or 500 Primo with the Masteron D-bol, and then a little bit of Tren in the middle of the cycle. So then when you end up with 16, 17, 800 milligram, I felt like, oh my God, I hope this is fine. I never thought of it. Hey, let me put another extra gram in it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I was an angel or so. I did. It was a reason why I became a mass monster, and that had something to do with it.
Now
Besides
tell
many other
everybody how
things.
big, how tall you are, how big, what did you weigh in the off season? What were you on stage?
I was 181, 5'11 and a half,
Okay.
and good
Now
off season.
we're talking about 180, not 181 pounds.
No, I was 181, 1 meter and 81 centimeters. That's five at the height. That's 5'11 and a half.
Okay, so
That
you're
was my
5'11
height.
and a half. How many pounds were you?
Uh,
Don't give me kilograms because none of us know what that is.
well, I'm not good with the kilograms anymore. I don't even freaking remember. But I
Okay.
remember I was 320 in off season in very good
Yeah.
shape.
Yeah.
A few times I
Yeah, you
overdid
were
it.
in good shape at 320. At
Yeah,
320, I was a fat boy.
yeah. I have pictures with 300,
Yeah.
5 weeks before the Olympia '97, where I'm really, really good shape.
Yeah.
And a couple of times I overdid it, went to 340. That was not
Yeah.
productive at all. It
No.
hurt my career more than it helped. But
Yeah.
it was 320. And then, it's my whole thing with I don't know if you heard that me saying that, I was a great bodybuilder, but a horrible competitor. I had 5 weeks before the shows, I had this great, great body, but I was always not smart enough to get out of my comfort zone and ask for the right help.
Right.
I always figured I'm so much bigger than anybody else. If I only place seventh or eighth at the Olympia, it's like, well, because I'm younger, next year, I will dominate. And it was not
Yeah.
like, hey, your presentation sucks. You're not dialed in, get the fuck help, guy.
Yeah.
I never quite combined that. I took them one of the hardest working guys. And the only reason I'm not first yet is because I need a bit more experience. Because me, Chris Cormier, and Lee Priest were by far the youngest guys. All the other guys, the top guys, were 5, 6, 7 years older. And they were
Right.
always the same guys in the first five, pretty much. It was the Levroni, Sean Ray, Nasser, Paul Dillett, and Dorian Yates. It was pretty much, so they were all quite a bit older. So it was just a matter of time till I took over, and then Chris kind of did. He had a great career afterwards. Where
Yeah.
then when those guys retired, I was kind of done. I mentally, physically, I didn't want to do it anymore. But that's kind of a stretch now. It's a little bit of a different chapter already. Yeah.
Yeah. What now what do you say to these? You know what doses are now. I mean, I'm sure I know you've heard, the dosing is so much different now than what it was. When I was in my early 20s competing, I was like you. When, I remember when the first time I went to 1,000 milligrams a week of testosterone. And I remember when I did that the very first time, and I was like, oh my gosh,
I mean, it's
I'm
not
on
different.
so much. And then now you hear regular guys in the gym, kids doing 1,000 milligrams at 18, 19 years old of
Yeah.
test. And I'm just like, dude, bodybuilding has become, and I was telling somebody, bodybuilding is nothing more now than a bunch of shooting stars hoping they hit the big time before they burn out.
It's not different when it comes to the people I work with or I advise. It's not any different, but I do know when I get approached, I would even say certain countries have a drug culture which is more extreme than others.
Yeah.
It's like every time I get a request from Brazil, what I hear out of Brazil, it's absolutely freaking shocking. And how many really top Olympians we have from Brazil, really? I mean, we have a lot of girls in the wellness category, but, for what they take, if that would translate how they look, we would have 3, 4 guys in the top 10 regularly, and we don't.
Right.
And India is a little bit also where I hear crazy stuff. But when it comes to my athletes, you cannot work with me if you have other ideas than I do when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah. Well, see, that's good because you're responsible and you're considering their health. I know I've talked to guys that are, and I mean just regular gym guys. I'll ask them, because they'll come and talk to me, and I just ask them, just how much test are you taking? I don't even tell me everything else, just how much test. And I'm always shocked at how many guys who will never compete, who are just taking it because they want to be in the gym and work out and lift weight. How many guys are at 1,000 milligrams and above? It's just, it shocks me. I'm just like, and I ask them, I'm like, are you planning to compete? I mean, what are your plans with this? And 99% of them, no. I'm like, well, where did you get the information? Why do you think you need 1,000 milligrams? And it's, they learn it online. It's, their friends all are taking more than that.
Yeah, it will not work for me. I had right now, I don't even know if I have a guy on 1,000. I have guys on 750. I had in one of the best bodybuilders I trained. I'm really focusing on getting people pro cards. Not I don't really have any great pros. I was so unlucky with people I turned pro. It's almost like funny what happened to the people I turned pro. So I had this one guy, absolutely excellent bodybuilder, Mike Cleaves. So he lost the USA against Derek. He's still bitter about it, because he still felt like he should have beaten Derek. Derek, especially as an amateur, was kind of always a little soft,
Yeah.
in the chest shoulder area. And I remember Derek going in as a favorite. I think it was 2017 USA. Screwed with my guy's head like crazy. He was supposed to be on their 197. He posted pictures the night before, 211, stuff like that. My guy going absolutely crazy, and he started this freaking hatred for Derek guy, and backstage.
He can't get past Derek Lunsford. Huh?
Yeah, backstage, he texted me, he says, the guy's fat as fuck. But Derek, when he turns around and does his rear double biceps pose, even if he's a little bit out of shape, I mean,
it doesn't matter,
and then Derek is out there with a smile and looking great, and my guy is all nervous, and so he lost against Derek, and then he skipped a year and he went back and lost against Tonio Burton. Although he should have clearly beaten Tonio. Tonio was very incomplete, but Tonio was fresh. I mean, yeah. Tonio as an amateur, that was like Ronnie Coleman glutes.
Yeah.
But he was very incomplete. But he lost against that guy.
Well, we know that glutes are the most important thing in bodybuilding now.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's
straight glutes.
Then I had him going to the North American 5 weeks later, where he won the overall. So the reason I mentioned the story, Mike, and I'm sure he won't mind telling you this story, Mike had not the best liver. He was regularly in the hospital getting checked. There was no real inflammation in the liver, but when you started to push the steroids a little bit and orals, forget about it, his liver started blowing up. And he was all kind of bitter about it when we started this journey together. And I said, listen, Mike, this is an advantage. I tried to kind of brainwash him. This is an advantage. So we have to take very little. And look how you look, so we will do it with very, very little steroids. And we did, and he won the overall. Unfortunately, he then, not unfortunately, good for him, he decided then to start the steel business, and it's doing very, very well in that. And went another direction. So that's just one of many people that turned pro, which even kind of went another direction, but that's totally fine. But it's absolutely doable, with low doses of steroids if done, other things done right,
Yeah, that's if you're genetically gifted. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love the advice you got way back when you were young. Hey man, if you can't do it on this, then you're not cut out for it, because I agree. You have to continue to grow once you get into the pros.
Yeah.
And most guys are burned out by the time they get there now.
Yeah. Hey, recently I reconnected with that guy, Harry Derglin. I never knew what happened to him. He owned this gym in Bern with his wife, and his career was kind of at the end when I competed. Like I say, he was several times top 3 at the Miss Universe. The guy always beat him. I don't know if you remember. His name was Hermann Hoffend.
No.
Hermann
Oh,
Hoffen from
yes, I do remember him.
Hermann Hoffen from Germany won like several world championship titles. You know, there was one of
I
those
do
guys
remember him.
who won pro cards several times, but never had any interest going pro.
Yep.
So, and then they started the Master Mr. Universe, I think the first time, and Hari won the very first one. So I lost touch with him till about a year ago. So he is now a knife thrower at the circus.
What?
He's a knife thrower at the circus. You know, I mean, the guy is something else, and I totally see it. He was such a showman, you know, his hair always perfect on stage. You know, he was such a gentleman with his little mustache. I totally see it. So, yeah, that's what happened to Hari Derglin.
So there you go, guys. If your bodybuilding career, when you're done, you can always become a knife thrower at the circus. Yep. That's crazy.
Absolutely.
So tell us what happened. I heard a story about you that your career kind of ended. I don't want to say unceremoniously, but really kind of tragically. Tell us about that? What happened? And then I'm really interested because I've heard and I've seen several videos Jay Cutler's made about, and I've talked to different people who have said that Jay, I guess, is, you know, having a struggle with, you know, after the fact, you know, what do I do after the fact? You know, after you're not the man anymore. I'd love to hear why and how your bodybuilding career ended.
Yeah.
You know, I heard you made a statement that I feel like, dude, is so good. And I hate to, I hesitate to say what it is. But I was told that by a mutual friend, that you made a statement that was just so good. And I'll remind you of it just in case you forget it. But then how did you adjust after when you're not the guy in the limelight? Tell us about that.
We got to backtrack a little bit. You know,
yeah,
the accident, I think, was 2003. In 99, late 98, my physique started changing. I gotten too big, and I had a clear buildup of visceral fat over my organs. So, you know, my belly was clearly extended. And it was because food became my enemy. Let's put it this way. In this kind of chase of getting bigger, I wasn't educated enough to make a difference between like different carb sources. I felt like, well, you know, if you eat pasta or if you eat bread, if you eat rice, it makes no difference.
Right.
But it turned out pasta, bread really inflated my gut. Yeah. In 98, it's kind of the beginning of the end. I prepared for the Arnold Classic, being pretty much the favorite. In 97, I placed 7th at the Olympia, 5th in the finale. And for the 98 Arnold Classic, Flex Wheeler applied for it, and Flex's career was really on the downslide at that point. You know, in 96, 97, he didn't have good years. 97, he skipped. And Nasser was great in 97, but I always felt like he has this one big weakness from the back. I can take him. So it could have been that I can win this Arnold Classic. As I went into the prep, I found myself the first time in my life with zero motivation. I just couldn't turn it around. You know, I was pretty much on a diet since 93, up to 1 to 2 shows a year. And you would think, okay, now I'm one of the best in the world. Now I'm super motivated. That's where I always admire people like Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman, you know, are just like machines. They just keep going, keep going, keep going. And I wasn't like that, unfortunately. So I started to brainwash myself in a way that cheat meals will get me there. So I ate massive amount of foods and then did those crazy 5-6 hour cardio sessions. Like, you know, kind of like I was a very unhealthy man at that point.
Yeah.
So I went to the Arnold Classic, and the very first time from those eating orgies, you seen my physique changing. And me not being well equipped when it comes to have a good team around me. I was always surrounded by friends who were pretty much scared to even criticize me. Went on that path, also not on that path when it comes to eating, but I never quite got my old physique back. So early 2000, 99, 2000, I started the first time realize after the disastrous 99 Olympia where I competed, looked horrible, not even was really prepping right, that I'm not going to be Mr. Olympia. It's just not going to happen for me because I know the passion you need. I didn't have either the physique or the passion for it anymore. So I started, after I moved to Palm Springs, a personal training business. And I did amazingly well. I had several trainers working for me. We shuffled money in like crazy. But I still was on a contract with Weider, and I needed that contract for green card reasons. I couldn't just drop that. So I kind of trained and made up excuses why I can't compete. Worked in the gym my ass off, managed all those trainers. But then the pressure gotten bigger and bigger. Hey, we paying you a lot of money. You have to compete, guy. The whole I decided to go to the Night of Champions. Gotten quickly in as good a shape as possible, but it was just kind of like a 15, 16 week kind of prep from nothing to kind of how I looked, and went to this photo shoot a week before. So I didn't compete in years, nor had any interest competing in years. A week before, I made a video with a friend, a leg video. And I was still strong after those 15, 16 weeks. I was still strong. But I did notice the 7 plates or so I had was a little bit heavier than usual, but I did 5 reps, not a problem. And then went to this photo shoot. So they wanted to do squats. We did the squats. And everything went okay. It was a little heavy, but everything went okay. I finished the photo shoot, and Chris Lund approached me of coming back. Something with the lighting he didn't like. He said I would like to change the lighting. It's just I know I've been here for a while. Just come back and do a couple of reps. I get the shots, and you're out. He was pretty pleased with the photo shoot. So I went back. And the gym was fairly chilly in the gym. I think the back door was open. Mm-hmm. And I should have restarted, of course, take the weights off. It was even if it's just 5 minutes, restart. So I wanted to get out of there. I went quickly in. I took the weight out. And now that was the moment my life changed before the accident. Mm. And I'm standing there with my 7, 8 plates I had on my back. And it didn't feel like a bodybuilding weight. It felt like I have a mountain on my back, just standing there, like really like an evil force or a godly force. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
something was very, very, very different. Never felt anything like that in my life. I'm sure it didn't feel like 7, 8 plates. There was maybe 200 plates on each side. I don't know what it was. So I went down, and everything was in slow motion in my head. I know step by step what happened. I was very, very present. So I went down, my right quad tore right above the knee, and I kind of flipped to the right side. And then my left one tore, I flipped to the right side. It kind of twisted out, and I was on my back. And I knew step by step, I tore both quads. And I knew the right one is probably way worse than the left one. And everybody was upset and running. And one guy ran for ice. And I was totally calm. Because I didn't want to be a bodybuilder anymore. I was laying there, and I wouldn't say I smiled, but with a smile on my face, I can say no pain whatsoever. And I was just, finally, it's over. And I'm doing this since I'm 15 years old.
Right.
And I don't do this anymore to be Mr. Olympia. I felt a relief and a happiness I couldn't quite understand.
Yeah. I heard you actually made this statement that the exact words were, the war is over.
Yeah.
The war in your head, the war in your body. And
Correct.
people don't realize, and I tell people all the time, you know, I tore my left lat off the spine, and I have so much nerve damage from the car accident that I didn't even know I tore it off the spine, and not till later on. But and I tell people all the time, I'm like, you know, when I went to the doctor told me, he's like, you know, the problem with guys like you is you live with pain your entire life and you don't know when you're hurt.
Yeah.
And
To
you know,
some
you
degree,
don't.
you enjoy the pain to some degree.
Yeah, well, exactly right. And I told him, I was like, you know, pain is what you live with. It's usually for us, it's a sign of I'm doing something, you know, I'm going somewhere, I'm going to be building, you know. And I found that interesting because I heard that about you, and I was like, dude, I was there. I was there. I remember that same moment where I was like, finally, the war is over. This thing that is my entire life, it seems like, you know, that war is over. And I still go to the gym, I still work out. I mean, I'm not 300 plus pounds anymore, nor do I want to be. You know, I run about 240, and you know, and finally on what the doctor tells me to take instead of all of the junk that I took for all those years. But yeah, I remember that when I heard that statement, that you had made that statement, I was like, dude, uh, that I don't think people who are not in this sport don't understand about this sport is it's a
Well,
war start to finish.
well, you know, for a long time, if it was a war or not, you enjoy whatever you do. You know,
Oh
it's
yeah.
just,
Oh yeah.
you live that
You
life.
don't realize it's a
Yeah.
war until you're getting
Yeah.
close to the end.
When it's not fun anymore, then it becomes you know, it's a war. Absolutely. And the next few months I had a very difficult recovery because the damage was so severe. I know during surgery they had an expert coming in from UCLA. I met the guy at Gold's Gym in Venice 15 years later, and he approached me and he says, well, you don't know me, but I was present when they fixed your knee. They called me in. He said, I never seen anything like it. It looked like a bomb exploded in your knee. It was not, you know, the left one was one cut, you know, recovered fairly quickly. The right one, they could not even really fix. You know, they tried to attach tendons had to drill holes where there where there were no holes, and to reattach stuff. And it never really healed till I then finally, 3 years ago, I decided no more. I need to have it replaced. And what a great decision that was. So wow. I'm absolutely pain-free in that regard. But during the next few months, I was in the hospital for a long time. First hospital and therapy center. Every day was pure happiness and joy. You know, people, I enjoyed life so much, you know, even going through the therapy, and people used to come to the hospital and said, wow, what the hell are you going to do? You know, I had this kind of thing. Turned out not to be 100% true later on. Well, after everything I did in my life, everything will be easy from here on. Yeah, it turned out to be quite naive, the statement, and not truth, but that's at least how I felt.
Yeah. In the moment, that's how you felt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when that weight, you know, it's interesting because, you know, now you still train, you're still training people. Yeah. Tell us about your online training course. I would love for people, like I don't coach anymore. I don't train anymore. We used to fly out to California, train clients out there, you know, all that stuff. My wife is a pro figure competitor. She retired also. So we just do this now, but you're still coaching people, and first, you have an online thing too. So why don't you tell people about that?
The first few years after the accident, I wanted nothing to do with bodybuilding or coaching anybody. I did other things. I started to work at the animal shelter, worked there for quite a bit, and so first, my training fell apart. There was a huge real estate crisis here, late 2000s. And I did not even notice that our whole business was built of real estate agents, training real estate agents. I mean, during that crazy boom when people flipped houses like crazy, before the mortgage crisis hit in 2008, everybody made money. So that totally fell apart. And I wanted no part of anything bodybuilding related. It was a few years, I even went to the Mr. Olympia. And I am a big bodybuilding fan. A few years later, I got a phone call from a gentleman in Colombia. He said, I have a large bodybuilding team and I would like you to come down and coach us. We're sending a large team to the Amateur Olympia in Medellin, which was run under the Elite League. So I told the guy, hey, I'm the last guy you should hire. I'm not a good coach. I never knew how to dial in. But they didn't take no for an answer. You're a legend and you please, and we don't have a lot of money, but we pay you, all of that stuff. So I thought, okay, how do I learn how to really coach people? Because when you look at my career, it's not the guy you want to hire. I have the ability to build massive amount of muscle, but I don't even never really looked great on stage. So I contacted Dave.
In your eyes, I would say there are a lot of people who would disagree with that.
Good. I contacted Dave Palumbo. He offered this coaching course, how to become a bodybuilding guru.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from Dave, and then went to Colombia to use his techniques, how to dial in. And since I had a very large team, you start to kind of figure out stuff, and that's how it all kind of started. So at some point I realized, because I had more and more animals piled up in my house from animals I took in, if I want to keep supporting those animals, I better start making more money than what I get paid at the shelter here, So I started coaching. And that's what I still do. I do some one-on-one coaching, more because my office is in a wellness center, cryotherapy, that kind of stuff. And there's a gym attached to the office. So since I'm here already, I do a few one-on-one sessions, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but it's mostly online. I coach. And then, like I mentioned before, but I think you recorded, I came up with this idea to make life easier for me, to put the perfect online training app together called Fitnetics, which will be released in about a couple of months.
That's going to be big, I think, for you. How do JP, how do people find you? Your social media, your website, and is there a place where they can like a coming soon for that app where they can
correct
get information? I would love for everybody to have that.
On my Instagram page or Facebook page, Jean-Pierre Fuchs Fitness, or Facebook, just my name, Jean-Pierre Fuchs. There's a form there you can fill out, jeanpierrefuchs.com. And from there, I get a lead and will contact you immediately. That's kind of how I get started usually.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you've gone back into helping people in bodybuilding. And that's something obviously that you enjoy. Are you heading to the Olympia this year?
No, I do not. I need to finish this app. I'm 10 hours a day, 12, 13 hours a day, I would say, in the office, having meetings every day. And I know I can do it from the road, but it's freaking Florida. And, I hate it. I hate it that I can't go. It's the first Olympia I miss in a very long time. I will certainly watch it online. I'm going to skip this one here. Even our show in Switzerland, the Swiss Grand Prix last weekend, I skipped that one. I just, once you go on the road, you don't get much done really, so I'm going to stay here.
Yeah, we just started another company as well, and I can go nowhere. So, I am the same way, 14, 16 hours a day. It is just so crazy.
What do you think about this Olympia? What do you think about this Olympia?
It's funny you asked, because I was literally just going to ask you, give me your predictions for is Bumstead going to win again? Who's going to win the Open, the 212?
So I started to really worry about Bumstead till last night. What I saw last night, that clap post there, it's game over. It's freaking game over. So if that's
he's
not
gonna
like,
he's gonna take it again.
yeah, if that's not like freaking 15 pounds overweight or so, then he will win. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
But I'm not a fan of classic. I'm really not.
Well, I mean, look, JP,
Yeah,
you
I mean,
could not be a fan of a fan of the classic. You were a monster.
I could be a classic fan if they take the weight limits off the table, because I always feel like,
Well, then they wouldn't be classic, right?
No, you're wrong, because
Really?
I'll tell you
Okay.
why. What is classic built on? Look at the classic physiques like Barry DeMay,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
Bob Paris.
Yeah.
A lot of those
Okay, now you're
guys.
throwing out names. A lot of these guys are going to have to go back and Google. I
Yeah,
remember these guys, but
like the real classic physiques,
yeah,
with a nice fullness but beautiful small waistline. A lot of those guys would be 20 pounds overweight
yeah,
today. I think a judge should be able to differentiate if it's classic or not without having a weight limit. And I had some great bodybuilders. I think it's from type to type different if you can make the weight or not. I had some great bodybuilders. They have the perfect classic physiques, but they're like 15 pounds over the weight limit, but they are what classic should be. And I
now,
don't know
didn't
how.
they just add some weight onto this?
Yeah,
They just added
did.
that.
They did. So it might change a little bit. And I don't know how Bumstead makes his weight every year, if his bones don't weigh anything, or I don't know what, because once they step on stage, he looks like 5, 6, 7 pounds heavier than anybody else.
Yeah.
So
And there's almost no way so is he gaining that much weight from weigh-in to the next day or 2 days?
it's possible, but whatever they do, it doesn't seem to harm him. He's not watery or anything like that. So yeah. And I heard he had even a 3-pound space last year.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I just read that somewhere online. I don't know if there's any truth to it. So every time I watch the classic live, I always felt like in the past, oh, he's going to be really good in 2 or 3 years, till I realized, oh no, God, that's what it is. It's his weight, so there's nowhere to go.
I will say this, guys that are because I sat at over 300 pounds and then would come down, and really I did the same thing, just got too big during the off season. But it just kind of naturally came, it wasn't it wasn't like I was trying to, I just gained that weight, and, I'd come down 250, when I won at the Universe, I was 254 on stage that morning. So, I'm 5'8.5" or 5'8.25". I mean, that's a pretty big boy.
That's pretty big. Yeah, that's pretty
big. But when you're, and I was talking to somebody a little while ago, they called me, they're like, oh, because look, when I was young, I was one of those guys that I felt like I would be competing up there, but I quit the first time very young, and my life took a different turn. I went to Bible college and seminary and became a pastor. And like I said, didn't walk into a gym till I was 41. And you're not, and I was very fortunate. I only competed, once, won the overall and all that stuff. And then, only competed 3 more times on the national level before I won my pro card. But you're not going, and I tell people all the time, you're not going at 49 or 50 years old, and you're not going to go and threaten Nick Walker or Samson Gouda or any of those guys. Even at that size, you're just not going to,
Absolutely.
And it's just the way it is. And people are like, dude, you're huge. And I'm like, yeah, but not in the bodybuilding. In bodybuilding, I'm huge, big, but you're not going to threaten those guys. And so, I'm I won my pro card. Probably should have won it when I was young, but again, life took a different turn. But I won it. But again, you have to temper all that. It is
a great achievement, but when it comes to, like I said, to the classes, how I rank the classes in my interest in it, classic would be pretty much at the end. Tell you. But I love.
Well, I wasn't a classic. I was. I was the only thing, I wanted to get as big as I could and get just.
The only thing even behind classic would be the man's physique, but I'm a big fan of the wellness category you're not going to believe, but the bikini category, it took me some time to become a fan of the bikini category. And I mean, I can
Really?
tell you for a minute why. And
Now,
then
are we talking about wellness or bikini?
I love both classes. I really
Okay.
do. And first I didn't take bikinis serious. When the bikini girls came out in California at the end, I left.
Yeah.
And then I started dating my now wife, who was doing bikini shows, and I started to realize how those people fight, the strategy behind it. And for us, it's kind of normal. You have to improve. In bikini, you have sometimes if you improve, you ruin your bikini career. It's all strategic and how you have to look and how you have to figure out in kind of work with the judging panel how to look for the next show, and it's constantly changing. It's the strategy is unbelievable behind it. But then the figure category, I mean, I think from all the categories, that category might be on the highest level. When you see the top 10 walking out, it's just crazy. Every single one is crazy. And then who doesn't love Natalia in the physique category? I mean, what that girl does for bodybuilding, I think I hardly ever seen an ambassador for the sport like Natalia. She's like every weekend you've seen her somewhere, guy. And then she even competes in the middle of the year as Miss Olympia, just for the love of the sport, guy. I hope she can keep the title. But when it comes to the Open, I heard Jay saying last year, when everybody gave in their predictions, like, I don't really know shit. And it's once when they walk out, everything changes. But if it's in a predictable way, I would say it's again between Hardy and Derek. Derek, I'm very worried when I seen the pictures. But, I know he's a genius in the last few days, but he seems to carry so much water. I don't know what their plan is, but I know he has the best coach in the world. They have for sure a plan.
Right.
Hardy, his legs start to downsize a little bit, and his midsection is not getting better. But we can count on him being in absolute perfect shape. But if Derek is in a similar shape, he would win. But he never showed that before, especially not from the front. And Nick is kind of in a way, the Rich Kaspari of these days, although way bigger. Nick has to benefit from other people not being top on. And then who knows, his day might be, there might be the one day where he can step in and take it all over. But if everybody is great, like Samson, Derek, and Hardy, I think he's just behind that group. But, they can change on any day. Then
so who takes it in your mind?
I would say Derek.
You think Derek's going to get it this year?
Derek, if I would have to put my money on it, it's Derek. He's young, he's improving, but it's also possible that he walks out and, oh my God, he missed the target. Although it's hard to believe with the coaching staff he has. But if I would have to put my money on it, it's Derek. Then Samson. I love Milos as a coach. I absolutely, how he improves those people is amazing. But I don't know if he is the best one to dial them in the last 24 hours. I think he's risking a lot with the loading, and it's a little bit of a hit and miss. But if it's a hit, Samson can fight for the title with Derek. But if it's not, Samson can be closer to 5 than 1. So, I know I'm not giving you much here, So let's say Derek wins, Samson is second, Hardy is third, or Nick.
So you think Hardy's going to be third?
If the other two are perfect, yes. But Hardy is the one I can bet on that he will be great.
I think he takes it.
Yeah.
And the only reason I think that is because, from a pure bodybuilding standpoint, I agree. If Derek is dialed in, I think he smokes it. Yeah. I mean, that's my opinion. You got to love that guy's physique.
He wasn't a perfect score last year. He was close last year.
Yeah.
And Derek
that's what I'm saying. So it's just
Derek is better this year.
But do you think Hardy is?
No, I don't think so. I've seen
really. Have we seen him? I haven't seen him lately.
Well, I did see stuff of him.
Did you?
Just a few days ago, yes. And it's possible that I mean, it's amazing, and I've seen footage of 7 weeks out that how great he already was. But I seen a montage 2019, 20, 21, 22 in the same pose. And his legs are downsized a little bit every year. And I don't know how old he is, but I don't think this is going to get better. It's just going to get worse. And this midsection being a little bit on the white side. And, when it comes to midsection and Derek, I mean, the guy is like, so I would put my money on Derek, but I will not be
So you think it could be between Dauda and Derek?
Yeah, Dauda is just pretty much it can really go from 1 to 5 everywhere because he never showed really the quality necessary to win a Mr. Olympia. And his rear double bicep pose is still a little bit
back, right?
Yeah, still a bit on the amateur side, kind of. But he won the Arnolds, and he beat a very good Nick at the Arnolds with perfect score. So and then after that, Brandon, it's just the legs are not big enough to get into that mix. But I love his physique, and it's a great guy. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And then we have the next group with what's his name, the guy from who beat Hunter in Dallas.
Yeah. If you hadn't asked me, I could have told you.
It's him and Hunter and just the usual group, and Krizo maybe. Krizo is an interesting case. And now he can't pose, and I know his color is off, but I hope they fixed that and got some good advice. I saw Krizo last year, 3 days before the Olympia at the Flex Gym, Dragon Layer. The guy was ripped. I mean, the guy was sensational. Then he walks out 3 days later, the pre-judging, collar off, smooth a little bit, it's totally off compared to how he looked in the gym.
How much are these guys messing up with their water? I mean,
I think it's just simply overloading.
They're overloading.
A
lot of these guys really, because, you always worry about diuretics. When I coach guys, I was always amazed at what they were told by other coaches to do with their water and everything. And I was like, what? No.
Most guys, from what I know, they don't take a lot of diuretics. They do a little bit of Diacide on Friday and then maybe Saturday morning. But I don't think that's that was more
Diazide.
There was more a problem, I think, in the 80s, early 90s, where people really screwed up there, or in the amateur ranks. I don't see a big problem there.
Yeah.
So,
where do you think it is? Where do you think the problem is?
Too much carbs. Too much carbs.
Just carbon up too much.
Simple as that. Yeah, simple as that. And I had a very interesting discussion with Dennis Wolf about that.
Yeah.
Recently. So, he won the Arnold's Classic, I think, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
The reason he won is he didn't load. He worked with all those great coaches and everybody overloaded him. And at some point he decided, screw it. I'm going to do my own thing. Obviously, he's a guy who can do his own thing, unlike me. It was a good decision in his case. And he went to the Arnold's Classic on his normal diet. Just having one meal in the morning with 40, 50 grams of carbs, pretty much every morning the same. And the show was over 2 days, and he said, I was dry, I was hard. You're still big enough, when you see how big those guys are Wednesday before the show. I don't know why they have this need to be even bigger. Yeah? So he said, that's when I won, when I stopped that stupid loading. I don't say that's the right thing for everybody. But also last year, when I saw Samson in the gym, I felt like he was way harder. But I also understand when Milos says that, look, if you really, really want to hit it perfect, you have to risk the maximum. I kind of disagree on that when it comes to carb loading. So you might overshoot a few times, but when it works, it really, really works. And I know how it used to work for Ronnie with 1,000 grams of carbs for several days, but most of us are not Ronnies, including the guys up there. So it's simply overloading. That's what I believe.
Do you remember the old school bodybuilding trick where guys would use edible vegetable glycerin?
No, I do not.
Don't remember that? Yeah, it's it's an osmotic, so it pulls subcutaneous water. I did that and used that with my guys the night before. We would use edible vegetable glycerin. And if you look at it, it was used back in the old days, and it just kind of became a lost art. But
Well, I made a note. I'm going to check it out. I swear to God,
check it
I'm
out.
interested.
I used it, and I used it with my guys. So what we would do is, and I can't believe I'm going to tell this, but because normally, I didn't, but we would use it the night before, and once you cut your water, we would take a shot of vodka with a little bit of coffee, and put 2 tablespoons of vegetable glycerin in there. And of course, like I said, it's an osmotic, so it attracts water, so it sucks in that water out from under the subcutaneous up underneath the skin. And then that next morning, when you get up and you're moving around, you're doing your thing, and you're taking in your last bit of meals and stuff, you take 2 more tablespoons of that and with your wine, and it just I mean, it literally, it just shrink wraps you.
No,
and I had, you remember Dallas McCarver?
Yeah.
I coached his best friend to a couple of Mr. Tennessee titles, and I introduced that to him, and I told him, I said, just trust me, and all we did was cut his water. You don't have to use a lot of diuretics. We cut his water. We did use a little bit. I'm not, I'll tell you, but I won't say it online here. But we did use, a small bit of diuretic that night, or that day, or actually that night, excuse me, in the afternoon. And but then once we cut the water, it was just that vegetable glycerin in that. And he, and I never had a problem with guys cramping or anything like that. And he was like, when I was talking with him before he was going on stage, he goes, dude, my skin is so tight, I feel like I can't walk very good. I was like, just trust me, you're going to be fine. So, but he super full. He looked like Dallas, just real big. He grew up with Dallas, knew him really well, and they were best friends. And of course, he was just destroyed when all that happened, went down. But but yeah, so we use that with a lot of guys. And I took a 63-year-old guy, put 17 pounds of muscle on him, and he won at the Masters Nationals at 64. He was a bantamweight. I got him into the lightweight at the top, and gave him that vegetable glycerin, tightened his skin up and everything, and he went in there and won it. It was pretty crazy.
Oh, I love to hear stuff like that,
Yeah, so, now it has to be edible vegetable glycerin. I did a couple of videos on that. It's on my YouTube site channel, where I did a couple and talked about how to use it. I didn't talk about how to use it for a show, but it works really, really, really well.
Because I know when the theoretic testing started in 96, and I know in 98, does it come in what, powder form, or what is this?
What's that?
Is this
vegetable glycerin?
Yeah.
No. I use it in it's a liquid. Yeah. It's a thick, it almost looks like a Karo syrup. But again, there's a couple of different kinds. You just have to make sure it's the edible kind. Edible vegetable glycerin. It works fantastic. As a matter of fact, that's how I put on 24 pounds of stage muscle in a little over a year, when I went from one thing to the next show, when I won my pro card. But I was 50 years old then too. But I use that during the year. If you use edible vegetable glycerin before your workout or in your pre-workout, dude, it's unbelievable. The pumps, it's crazy. It works so good. I've had so many guys contact me since I put those videos out. They're like, dude, I can't believe it. And I'm like, I told you.
Glycerin is not unusual in pre-workout shakes.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But so I use 2 tablespoons of it. Depending on how big you are too, maybe a little more. But it's amazing how it overnight, how it pulls that sub-Q water
Hey,
out.
you're not going to believe it, but I do have a pro this weekend on a show here. So I have this guy who turned pro as a bodybuilder a year ago at the Masters here with 35 and up.
Yeah.
So he is doing his first pro show this weekend, and he switched to classic. And so we had to get him about 10 pounds down, and it's we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He switched over to classic from bodybuilding.
Yeah, he's just doesn't want to get bigger. He always thought he's more of a classic guy, and I don't think the new weights are in place yet.
Oh, they're not? Okay.
I don't.
They are for
so.
the Olympia, though, right?
Are they?
Yeah, I mean, so.
Yeah, he's obviously not going to the Olympia. So I know he has to be 6'3" or we're screwed. He's 6'2" and a half-ish. So we gotta have to stretch him a little bit. Yeah.
Stand on your toes, boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man. Hey, that's awesome. Hey, JP, anytime, man, we'd love to have you back on, man. I'd love to hear the old war stories. And we'd love to have you back on just to maybe hear some of your favorite stories from competitions, things like that. I think guys would love to hear that. And maybe in the future talk to you about a little more about your coaching. And maybe, after your app gets launched, maybe let the guys in on that and walk them through how to use it.
Yeah, I mean, my app is pretty much done. We have to do some, there's an administration part the trainer use on a website. Yeah. We have to kind of transfer that all into an app, so that's only about a month. And then I should be ready to release that. Yeah, I would love to come back.
Well, good. Hey, you've got my number. I've got yours. Let's stay in touch. And man, really awesome talking to you. Yeah. It's really neat when you see a guy, pictures of a guy and videos of a guy, things like that. And then you finally get to talk to him and find out they're super nice guy, man. So it's really been a pleasure talking to you.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, JP. Soon, guys, that's Jean-Pierre Fuchs. And this has been Impact.
The Impact